Skill Roadmap, L-sit. The L-sit is one of the easiest skills in calisthenics, so if you're a complete beginner, you can start training for it almost right away. But how do you do it? The goal of this video is to answer this question by showing you how you can learn the L-sit from scratch. The first step is building a foundation. Since the L-sit is a skill that doesn't require a lot of strength, you don't need a big foundation. The only two things you need is enough shoulder strength to hold your body weight in a support position on parallel bars, and enough hamstring flexibility to extend your legs in front of you. Okay, so how do you build this foundation? To improve your shoulder strength, you have to do support holds on parallel bars. Once you can hold your body weight in a support position on parallel bars for at least 10 seconds, you're strong enough to start training for the L-sit. And what about flexibility? To perform the full L-sit, you need to be able to sit on the floor upright with your legs extended in front of you. If you can't do this, you will just end up with either a bent leg L-sit or a low L-sit, which is not the goal here. To improve your flexibility, you have to stretch your hamstrings by folding forwards like this. When doing this stretch, make sure to avoid rounding your lower back, as doing so doesn't actually help stretch your hamstrings. You're just borrowing range of motion from the lumbar spine. Instead of focusing on bringing your head down, focus on touching your legs with your stomach, as that's how you actually stretch your hamstrings. Once you can sit on the floor at a 90-degree angle with your legs extended in front of you, you have enough flexibility to do the L-sit. In fact, you can train for the L-sit before you have enough flexibility, as the first progressions don't require as much of it. But to do the full L-sit with straight legs, you have to meet this flexibility requirement. Okay, so now that you have enough shoulder strength to hold your body weight in a support position on parallel bars, you can start training specifically for the L-sit. The first step is a tuck L-sit. To do it, get into a support position on parallel bars, lift your knees up like this, and hold. This mimics the L-sit with a much shorter lever, which makes it much easier. Once you can hold this position for 10 seconds, you can move on to the next step. The second step is an advanced tuck L-sit. To do it, get into a tuck L-sit and slightly extend your legs so that the angle at your knees is about 90 degrees. Since your legs are more extended than in a tuck L-sit, the lever is longer, which is why this step is more difficult. Once you can hold this position for 10 seconds, you can move on to the last step. And the last step is the full L-sit. To do it, get into a tuck L-sit and fully extend your legs. You might not be able to keep them completely straight at first, and that's fine. As your flexibility and strength improves, you'll be able to straighten them out. Once you can do the full L-sit on parallel bars, you can move on to the ground, which will make the L-sit much harder. Okay, so now you know the exact steps to achieving the L-sit. But how do you actually do it? This is where training program design enters the picture. Since the L-sit is a strength skill, we'll start with 3 dedicated sessions per week. More will not allow for recovery, while less will not allow you to practice the technique as much. The first exercise of the session should be 3 sets of whatever step you're on. This will be a 6-week long program, each step lasting 2 weeks. This means that in the first and second week, you'll be doing 3 sets of the tuck L-sit. In the third and fourth week, you'll be doing 3 sets of the advanced tuck L-sit. And in the fifth and sixth week, you'll be doing 3 sets of the full L-sit. The second exercise of each session should be 3 sets of leg raises in the position of whatever step you're on. If you're doing the tuck L-sit, you should do tuck leg raises. If you're doing the advanced tuck L-sit, you should do advanced tuck leg raises. And if you're doing the full L-sit, you should do full leg raises. This will strengthen your hip flexors and core dynamically, which will really help you in achieving the full L-sit. And the third exercise of each session should be forward folds to improve your hamstring flexibility. Do these for 3 sets of 30 seconds and focus on touching your legs with your stomach instead of bringing your head down. This is the entire routine. 1 isometric exercise, 1 dynamic exercise, and 1 flexibility exercise, which is more than enough to achieve the L-sit. Just keep in mind that none of these sets should be pushed to complete failure, as that's not the best way to build strength and learn technique. Leaving a few reps or seconds in reserve is recommended. This will also allow you to add a couple of seconds or reps in the following workouts, which is the best way to make progress. To give you a visual example of how a training program for an L-sit will look like, here's a sample program. Here's the first week, here's the second week, here's the third week, here's the fourth week, here's the fifth week, and here's the sixth week. Pause the video to look at each week in more detail. Okay, so this is the entire roadmap to achieving the L-sit. If you have any other video recommendations, feel free to comment them down below. Peace!